Live, local, late breaking. This is Newswatch 12 this morning.
Good morning. The time is 6:30 on September 8th. Welcome to Newswatch 12 this morning. I'm Carlos Murrieta. We first want to turn over to Storm Tracker 12 meteorologist Sarah Crest for a look at our Monday. And Sarah, I'm excited for the cooler weather to start coming in, but is it cool enough to start feeling like fall?
Today, maybe not quite as cool to feel like fall, but tomorrow, especially when temperatures drop a little bit more, it will feel like fall, and a lot of us are definitely going to be happy about that. But starting off this morning, we are still dealing with impacts with smoke and air quality, especially areas over to the west. Temperatures not starting off too different from what we're used to this time of year, but you will notice a bit more clouds have begun to move their way in. Out to the bus stop this morning over into the Rogue Valley, expected to see partly cloudy to mostly cloudy sky conditions, temperatures into the 60s. Air quality is not looking too great this morning either, so do be mindful when you are standing outside, especially for those younger kiddos. By the time you are heading home, temperatures only going to be into the 70s today for the Rogue Valley. High temperatures pushing up into the upper 70s, maybe just dropping over into the 80s in a few areas, but in general, you're gonna like what you're gonna see. Now, if we're looking out this morning, seeing increased clouds across the region, possibly have a chance for a light shower along the coast this morning, but activity will pick up, especially along the coast this morning, and we'll see more showers work their way inland through the afternoon and this evening today. Here's a look at your high temperatures around the rest of the region. Temperatures into the 70s for most of us. If you are along the coast, pretty typical into the 60s for your high today, but lots of clouds, and we'll be keeping an eye out on wet weather, not only for us today, but into the days ahead as well. We'll continue on with that tomorrow, your Wednesday. Also the possibility for some embedded thunderstorms. This does mean we'll see some improvements to air quality, and that does mean bad news for wildfires, but great news for us. We'll see a little bit of decreased activity likely in your days ahead. But here's a closer look at your temperatures through the midweek. We'll see only into the mid 70s through your Wednesday. It does warm up slightly by the end of the week, but in general, we are looking like we'll see cooler weather for the time to come. And today is the 5-year anniversary of the Labor Day fires, and Newswatch 12 is planning to honor and reflect on how Southern Oregon has recovered and grown in the 5 years since.
And we have spoken with local residents, businesses, and leaders on the recovery efforts since the fires devastated the region. And you can tune into our special edition of Newswatch 12 at 8:15 p.m. tonight as we reflect and remember the stories taking place from the Labor Day fires. And this is something that we've been working on for weeks now. It's been an all hands on deck effort on our whole Newswatch 12 team, especially you and Matt as well, Sarah. You guys have been working on your sides.
Yes, and we've been able to connect even closer with the community too over these past few days. So it definitely is something worth watching. We are definitely going to highlight how we've come together as a community and thrived since these fires.
And speaking of the 5 years, yesterday marks the 5 years since the devastating Holiday Farm fire that tore through the Blue River and surrounding communities. Israel LaRue spoke with residents to see how the community is still recovering from that fire.
5 years later, these images are still fresh in a lot of people's minds. Even the subtle smell of smoke in the air today can be triggering, according to Holiday Farm fire survivors I spoke with here at Lazy Days Mobile Park.
I wasn't prepared when I did come back. I lived in this Lazy Days in the trailer. It was one of those things where when I first came back, I just wanted to see if I had anything, right? And me and my girlfriend came up and we were looking, and it was just ash. There was some metal on the ground and stuff.
5 years to the day, the Holiday Farm fire began, burning more than 173,000 acres, destroying 80% of Blue River's downtown area. Residents of Lazy Days described the events of finding out that they had lost their homes.
I didn't know if my place was gone yet until the next morning. A guy kind of come up over Sweet Home and drove down this way, and that's when I knew. And so I knew from there that I lost everything.
And how they recovered since then.
With a nice couch and a nice place to stay, and I feel grateful for this.
But some wounds never heal.
Recovery, I don't think there ever is recovery, to be honest. I mean, we rebuild our lives, but it's something like this is hard to recover from. It really is. it was devastating for all of us. I mean, you know, we lost everything. And I'll be recovering every day of my life from here on out.
While the recovery may never end for some, local government efforts are still being made to help those displaced from the fires. County commissioners will be asking the Oregon Land Conservation and Development Commission to approve that extension. This is just one of many ways residents displaced by the devastating fires are still receiving much needed support. Homes for Good bought this land after the Holiday Farm fires destroyed the housing on which it stood. The company's goal was to rebuild the community and create low-income housing for people who had lost their homes. Lane County Land Management Supervisor Mary Ann Nolte explains why the extension is needed for residents.
Of those, 30 are on properties where the house has been rebuilt, so it's reasonable to assume that those RVs are not needed anymore, but that leaves about 60 where people may still be using those RVs.
Reporting in Blue River, I'm Israel LaRue.
In our top story this morning, Ashland Police is investigating a homicide this morning as they are asking for the public's help in identifying the suspect. Police were called just before 3:40 Sunday morning to reports of a person laying on the ground near their car near A Street and North 2nd Street in Ashland. Police say they found 40-year-old Matthew Mark Vandersand of Ashland dead with gunshot wounds. Investigators believe he was inside his parked car when an unidentified suspect approached him and fired several rounds at the victim. Security footage caught the suspect running off wearing dark clothing, and police do not believe there is a threat to the public and may have been a targeted incident. More details can be found on our website. Moving on to the fire watch, firefighters worked through the night on the Kelsey Peak fire in Josephine County, which is now at 685 acres with still no containment. More than 150 personnel were on the scene overnight as a level 1B ready evacuation has been issued for zone JCU 801. And a level 3 go now evacuation order remains in place for the area of Rogue River Ranch and the nearby area of Mariel on the BLM Road. The Rogue River Ranch, Mariel, and the Zane Gray cabin are near the general area of the fire, but they are currently not threatened by it. And checking back in on the Dillon fire in Northern California, that fire is burning at almost 12,000 acres, while containment has jumped to 50%. Fire crews are working to protect structures and communities from spot fires produced by the Dillon fire in the Six Rivers National Forest. Crews are working on to hold the fire at Rock Creek and keep it from running upslope to south and west. And just northeast of the Dillon fire, the Blue Fire is currently burning at more than 3,400 acres with 5% containment. Firefighters are continuing to construct containment lines along Walker Creek Road on the east side of the fire, and evacuations do remain in place for both Dillon and Blue Fires this morning. And in an update, a car crash on Highway 62 last week led to the death of a 20-year-old and another with life-threatening injuries. According to Oregon State Police, a Honda CR-V driven by 19-year-old Anthony Graham of Eagle Point lost control and struck a concrete barrier, causing the vehicle to catch on fire. Michael Graham, also from Eagle Point, was pronounced dead at the scene. The crash closed the highway for about 4 hours, with excessive speed being the primary cause of the incident. And new this morning, the Oregon Housing and Community Services has committed $291 million to develop more than 1,100 new affordable homes across the state. The funding comes from multiple groups from the local innovation, fast track, and permanent supportive housing. Now, this highlights a collaboration involving over 40 partnerships statewide, ensuring affordable housing reaches every corner of Oregon. This funding targets groups including older adults, veterans, and families exiting homelessness. And Oregon's only Republican Congressman Cliff Bentz has decided to cancel all of his in-person town hall meetings and hold virtual town halls instead, saying disruptive behavior from attendees from the group Indivisible has caused the change. Bentz announced the decision following incidents where he claimed members of the group engaged in, quote, intentionally disruptive, repetitive, practice, rude, and demeaning behavior, end quote, at his events. Teresia Safe from Indivisible, a local branch of the National Indivisible organization, responded to Bentz's claims, saying, quote, Indivisible is a peaceful, nonpartisan organization whose main mission is to hold our elected officials accountable, end quote. And the Rogue Valley got to experience exotic reptiles at the Show Me Reptile Show right here in Medford. Different vendors and breeders from all over the country gave people the chance to interact with cool new creatures and even take chance to take home a new pet. And it's not just for show and tell. The show is a great educational tool on what it takes to raise these animals and keep them protected.
We're here so that the breeders can educate the community about what they do. I mean, that's the biggest value of what we really do or bring out to the community is education and exposure for everyone to learn about how amazing and beautiful and fascinating these creatures are.
Organizers say the turnout was a success and they look forward to returning next year.